Welcome, everyone, to our seminar Red Raider Family webinar series, Academic Success at Texas Tech. I'm Connie Watson, part of the Parent and Family Relations team here at Tech main campus, and we are glad that you are able to join us today. But for our webinar hosting will be Patrick Bond from our Learning Center, along with Dustin Florence with Undergraduate Writing Center. This webinar is part of a webinar series we do for Red Raider orientation. We'll have information about that later in today's presentation, but let's get straight to it. Pat, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Connie. We appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day to joining us today to hear a little bit more about our academic resources. So I'm here to tell you about the Learning Center and some of the programs that we provide in our service. And so here at the Learning Center, we are all about peer-to-peer learning. And we provide that in a few different ways and hope that your students choose the way that they connect best. Or if they want to utilize all our programs, we're always interested in that. And so the first way that we provide academic support for students is through our peer tutoring program. And you have the QR code there. You can feel free to peruse our website as I'm talking, but they'll also share the websites in the chat as well. And so peer tutoring is a way for students to receive individual assistance in a no pressure environment. And so all of our peer tutoring is done drop-in, no appointment is necessary. So students just need to show up, and we'll kind of walk through how they find when the times that they need to show up in the next slide. Our tutoring is done in person, primarily here in Drain Hall, but we also have a presence in the library a few nights during the week, as well as some residence halls on campus. And we'll go more into depth a little bit later about which residence halls as well. Peer tutoring is student driven. All the sessions look like what that student needs. So if your student comes in and has one question and they're here for 5 minutes, then perfect. That's what they need. That's what they can come get. If they want to be here and work on homework, and then ask questions as it comes up while the tutor is just kind of there and being present for 2 hours, that's totally fine. Again, that's what we're here for, to make it an individualized experience. Our peer tutors are all academically successful undergraduates attending here Texas Tech, which for us means 3.5 GPA and higher, and they all can assist in at least 4 courses. So some of our peer tutors can help in 4 different math courses. Some can help in math, chemistry, and physics. It just kind of depends on where they are in their collegiate program and career. We average about 65 tutors every semester that cover about 115 plus different courses. And you'll see here in a sec, some courses will have more tutors, some will have fewer, just depending on demand. We do also have an online tutoring option that's a 24/7 live online assistance for students. And we partner with a company called BrainFuse for that. And so this is intended to kind of supplement what we already do in our current programs. It's helpful for distance students. It's also helpful for those night owls who, can't go to bed because they don't understand how to work a derivative problem in calculus at 3 a.m. And so BrainFuse is what can help them in that situation at best, because we will not be here at 3 a.m.
That's right, Pat. And while I've got you interrupted a little bit, I forgot to tell everyone, if you have a question that you would like to ask of our panelists, please, you can use the question and answer feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen to post those questions, and we'll be answering those as we go along or at the end of our presentation today. My apologies, Pat, back to you.
Yeah, no worries. So the next slide has an example of we call our course listing for the peer tutoring. And so this is the best place for students to start. This is not the full list. This is just a screenshot to kind of give you some context. And so if I were a student, the first week of class, I would go on here and look at our course listing, which is a link to our website, and you can see, am I in a course that they're offering peer tutoring in? Now, you'll notice there's some courses like Chemistry 1307 that have a lot of tutors available, and that just depends on some classes because there's high enrollment, high demand for it. Some other courses, we may only have one tutor, but we try to cover a variety of different classes. So not just the traditional core courses, but we try to branch out and move into other areas as well. So most of our peer tutors are available for those high demand courses, but again, we're always looking for the next grade tutor in another class where we can help students. So the idea is if you look and you find a tutor, you can then go to our peer tutor schedule that's also linked on our website, and you can see when they're available, their work schedules. And so this is typical of what a fall or spring semester peer tutor schedule looks like. And so if I needed help with Chemistry 1307 and my list showed that Alicia was a tutor, I'd go to the top there and I can see Alicia's weekly availability. And so all I would do is show up at 4 o'clock on Monday if I had that time available, and bring my questions, and I could be here and I could work with Alicia for 10 minutes or I could work with her for a few hours. We do strategically place and schedule our peer tutors throughout the day for those difficult subjects. So we have options in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the early evening before we close up for the day. Especially again in those high demand courses. Our program manager, Margie, she does an amazing job of scheduling and figuring out that jigsaw puzzle between all these different employees that we have. On the next slide, you can see the locations and hours of our tutoring. And so our main location there is Drain Hall. That's where we do the bulk of our tutoring, bulk of the time. And so we're open on Sundays in the fall as well. You can see 12 to 6. Friday, 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we're open a pretty good, cover pretty much the week for students. But again, that's where BrainFuse could help if it's after those hours. The university library is one of our satellite locations where we'll have tutoring available 2 nights a week. And then you can see at the bottom, we've got our residence halls where we will have a presence this fall. Chitwood Weymouth, West Village Complex A, which is brand new to this fall semester, and then Murray Hall. The good thing about these locations is any student can utilize them. You don't have to be a member living in Murray Hall to come and use those services there. You can be any student on any residence hall, or you don't have to live on campus to utilize these locations. The next way that our second approach to helping students is through supplemental instruction. And some people may know it as SI. It's more of a structured kind of review style learning environment where there could be 5 students in a session, or there could be 250 students in any given session. And as peer-led review sessions, the emphasis is to highlight what was covered that week in class, again, in a non-pressure environment. So a little bit different setting than just an individual driven session with a tutor, with a peer tutor. So sessions are held across campus at different academic buildings. So you might have sessions in the chemistry buildings or math buildings, but we try to localize them to buildings that students are already familiar with, as long as the university allows us to have that space. But typically, because we have them after, late afternoon, early evenings, we are able to access those locations. We typically target historically difficult classes that have high enrollment. Like I mentioned, Chemistry 1307, regardless of your major, a lot of students have to take that class. And so we try to make sure that we have a lot of coverage between SI and peer tutoring to be available for those students as different options. And so for SI sessions, those are typically 2 1.5-hour sessions per week for any given course. Students do not have to sit there for the entire 1.5-hour sessions, but they can go and they can just get a QR code and get a packet of what the SI leader created and take it home and work on that if they want. But we feel that if you're there for the whole 1.5-hour sessions, or at least a good chunk of that time, you get to build that connection with other students and kind of reinforce those good study habits. Rater reviews are highlighted because they're predominantly for right before an exam. And so we see a lot of attendance on those. It's just kind of a one last shot for students to go, hey, here's the points of emphasis that you need to know going into this major exam. So a lot of students utilize those and appreciate those. SI leaders provide packets or handouts that have additional practice problems that they're not going to get on their own. This is the only unique way that they can do that. Again, somebody that they can reinforce the concepts and talk to in person about those. And our SI leaders are also highly qualified because they received an A in that course here at Texas Tech. They are retaking the class in an audit setting, and then they work directly with the faculty. And so the next slide shows an example of what a weekly SI session part of a schedule looks like. If you went on our website now, it'd look a lot different because the summer is a little bit slower in terms of classes that they offer in person. But again, the idea is for a student to go on here. And if I'm taking Accounting 2300, I see I have 4 different options. And so Kaysen has sessions on Monday and Wednesday, but then JD has sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I could take part in one on Monday and one on Wednesday, or I could do one Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so again, those classes that have high demand, high enrollment, you typically see more than one option. And so we have to keep those, or we try to keep those, again, late afternoon, early evening, so that we're giving students the opportunity to attend those while they're not attending another class. And then finally, the third kind of newest way that we're trying to help students for the department is through our peer learning specialist. And so the role of the peer learning specialist, or the idea behind it, is to kind of connect with students on a one-on-one basis for those non-content related needs. And so not specific to, I'm struggling with this concept in chemistry, but more, I'm struggling with, I don't know who to ask this question to. I don't know how to use Rate or Canvas. I don't know who my professor is, or how do I reach them? How do I email them? And so these individual peer-led learning support sessions are set to 30 minutes, but that doesn't mean that the student can't make it longer or utilize it more than once in the semester. And so our peer learning specialist, Lily, she can work with them on time management and learning styles and setting goals and techniques, all those concepts that are going to help the student in any course that they're taking. And so we found this to be exciting, and we hope that you can pass this along to the students, and we hope that it's a service that it's utilized, but we feel like there's a place for this. On the next slide is, you might be asking, so how can I help my student, whether I'm 6 miles away or I'm 600 miles away? And so for us on our end, we appreciate you just reinforcing that we exist. And so if you see some of these, if you hear your students say some of these questions, whether it's in person or in text or a phone call, I have questions, but I don't know, I don't want to ask in front of everybody, or I'm so confused, or my professor's office hours conflict with my other class. This would be a great time for you to segue into, have you connected with the Learning Center? Have you checked in with them? Have you worked with a peer tutor? They might be able to help you out. So these are some examples, and you'll have access to those to get, as a starting off point, rather than calling the student going, are you going to tutoring? So this might be an easier transition into those conversations. So the next slide, to kind of help understand your student, or help your student understand where we fit in their academic lives. So if you hear somebody say, or one of your students say, I have a solid B, I don't need any help, or I don't feel comfortable asking for help, or me plus chemistry equals not good, those are also good jumping off points to say, okay, have you worked with a tutor? Have you connected with a student who works for the Learning Center? Because they may be able to bring that B up to an A, or they may be a great resource to get started in that process. So I want to make sure I leave enough time for the undergraduate writing services. So if you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll get those answered. Dustin, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Thanks so much. I just want to make sure real quick that everybody can hear me. So give me a thumbs up. Everybody is
Doing quite well, Dustin.
okay. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I really appreciate everybody taking some time out of your day to come here to really learn how the services that we have here at Texas Tech can really benefit your student and help your student succeed. I work with the Undergraduate Writing Center, and the meat and potatoes of what we do are our writing consultations. Similarly to what Pat was describing with the Learning Center, this is peer tutoring. So we have an excellent staff of peer tutors from a wide variety of majors who are trained weekly in our professional development meetings to work with your students on any writing project they're working on. A lot of students might associate the Writing Center, of course, with those heavier writing courses, such as, your English courses, your history courses. And we do work with a lot of students on writing projects in, say, English 1301 or 1302, that those first semester English courses, or their early history courses as well. But students can also come to see us if they're working on something for a personal project. If they're working on an email to a professor that's really, really important to them. If they're working on job application materials, we see a lot of students, or they're trying to apply to graduate school, medical school towards the end of their collegiate career. So any writing project, if it involves writing, we work with students on that. We also work at any stage of the writing process. Another common misconception, I would say, is that students think they need to have a completed draft before they come in to work with us. But we can work with them on the pre-writing stages, those brainstorming stages. We can work with them on reading through the prompts and the assignment descriptions their professors have given them in order just to help them understand exactly what the assignment is asking for before they even begin writing. And of course, we can help them at any other stage as they're going through their drafting process, whether they have a very rough draft that needs a lot of revision, or whether they have what they feel is a final draft and they just like another set of eyes to look over, make sure it's as polished as it can be. Any of those stages of the writing process, we work with students. And something we're really excited about that we've been doing for the last couple of years is our collaboration with the librarians, with the Texas Tech librarians. So if your student is working on a writing project that involves research, we can bring in a personal librarian. We have librarians at certain times of the day that are actually in the Writing Center. So one of the peer tutors can call the librarian over if they notice that the student really needs help with finding really good academic journals or evaluating sources, something like that. But we can also include librarians in our synchronous online consultations as well. So that's again, the meat and potatoes of what we do. In the picture over here, you can kind of see how that looks in person at the Writing Center. So the student sits down next to the consultant and they work together. It's a really collaborative process. We really want the students to feel engaged in the process and feel in control of their own writing, since they are the author of their writing project. And we're really here to coach them along and show them things that they're doing well and also things that they can improve. In addition, real quickly. In addition, we also have writing groups. These are more for students who are working on bigger projects like honors thesis and that are going over a long period of time. And we also have our online resources on our website where students can see some information we have about common writing genres, also information about common writing issues that they might encounter when they're working on their projects. Okay, now we're ready for the next slide. So, in order to provide consultations and help to as many students as we can, no matter where and when they want to work, we have 3 types of consultations. Of course, we have our in-person consultations in the Writing Center. You can see the picture there where the student comes into the center, the consultant sits down next to them and they work. We realize not every student can make it to Weeks Hall where our Writing Center is. So we have our synchronous online consultations as well. The synchronous online consultations are like a Zoom call. And then in addition, we also have our written feedback consultations where students can submit a paper, submit a draft, and the student doesn't even have to be available at that time, because what's going to happen there is the consultant is going to receive that draft and be able to look over the information the student has provided in terms of, what they're really concerned about with that draft. And they're going to give marginal feedback, like you see in this example, as well as provide a screencast video kind of read through the paper where they're talking over some things that they've noticed. So again, the important thing to take away here is that no matter where your student is or when they'd like to work, we have a type of consultation that will work for them. Okay, so now let's talk about our locations and hours. So as I was saying before, our main office is in Weeks Hall on the third floor. And we're open from Monday to Thursday, 10 to 7 p.m., and Friday, 10 to 4 p.m. We also have Saturday hours as well. These are only for our written and audio feedback consultations, however. But we also have, just as the Learning Center does, we have satellite locations in the university library. You'll notice some of those hours are on Sunday, 12 to 7. Also, we have 2 to 7 at in the library as well. And just as the Learning Center does, we have satellite locations in Murray Hall, in Chitwood, and our new one in the West Village Complex A. So again, no matter where your student is on campus or no matter where they'd like to work with us, we hope to be very close to them, so to make it easy as possible for them to come in and visit us. We also have Architecture Library satellite location. That's for the spring semester only. And that's our only one that is really specifically for a major. That's only for architecture majors. But if your student happens to be an architecture major, keep that in the back of your mind to mention to them when they get to the spring semester. During that time, they'll be working on some very big writing projects that the Writing Center will be very invested in helping them with. Now, we encourage students to make an appointment to work with us. Students can drop in, and of course, if someone is available, they will work with that student right then and there. However, especially, as we get into the semester and things get busy, sometimes our schedule fills up. Students can always make an appointment. They can make appointments far in advance. And we have our online scheduler, which they can find at our website, uwc.ttu.edu. Or if they forget that, which is very, understandable, I always just tell students they can Google Undergraduate Writing Center TTU and they will find us very quickly. But once they get on that scheduler, they can just look for any of those white spaces, which mean those are some spaces that are available for consultations. And then they can see over on the left-hand side the consultant that is offering consultations at that time, so they'll know who they're working with. They can also see if that consultant is offering synchronous online or sometimes even the written audio feedback appointments. So on the scheduler, they can kind of decide when they want to work, how they want to work, and who they want to work with. Of course, if students have any questions, they're always welcome to call our office. Our number is here. It's also on our website. And they're, of course, welcome to drop in Weeks Hall, third floor, to ask us any questions as well. One thing I will say, parents and family members, is that the students must schedule and attend their own appointments. So it's great that y'all remind them and encourage them to come, but you can't set up appointments for them, right? Because it's really up to the students to make that step and reach out for the help that they need. But once they make that small step, we are here for them 100%. Okay, so next slide, please. So again, just like Pat mentioned with the Learning Center, you might hear your students making some statements or asking you some questions that really tell you that this is the time I really want to remind my student about the Undergraduate Writing Center and that the help that is available for them if they just reach out for it, right? So if you hear them saying things like, oh, I'm really worried I have an essay coming up, or I've never written an annotated bibliography, a research proposal, any of these other things, or I don't know what APA even means, or I have to email my professor, but I don't know what to say. I'm worried about how he'll perceive that. If you hear any of these kind of statements coming from your students, please remind them about the Undergraduate Writing Center and that we are here to help them, right? And it's a no judgment zone. They're going to come in, work with one of their peers, and just get the best help that they can get. So next slide, please. You can also help your student if you hear them saying some things that sound like a little bit off from what the Undergraduate Writing Center actually does. So if you hear them saying things like, I'm going to the UWC so they can fix my paper, well, of course, that's not our mission, and it's not in the best interest of the students for us to fix their paper for them. But you can tell them, yeah, you should definitely make that appointment and go in, and they will help you, give you some strategies how to revise your paper, right? They will work with you, collaborate with you to learn how to write this paper and to become a better writer. Or if you hear them say, as we all know, ChatGPT is the big thing the last few years. I don't need to go to the UWC because ChatGPT can write my papers for me. We are happy for students to come in and we will talk to them about ethical and effective uses of AI, generative AI. We will also protect them and help them look at the syllabus for their course to make sure that they're not doing something that the professor has forbidden, right? Or that they might get in trouble for. And of course, if there is a fair use of ChatGPT, for example, in their course, of course, our consultants are trained to help them use that in a very critical way so that they're using it as a tool, but not overusing it and over relying on it and getting into some problems because there are still like major issues with AI, basically making things up, making up sources for paper. So if you hear your students talking about that, just remind them, oh, go into the UWC and, make an appointment and talk to someone, right? Because that's really what we do. Even if they feel that they're a great writer and they don't need the UWC, we always say it's great to have someone, another pair of eyes, help you look over your writing. And again, help you identify things that you're already doing well so you can build on those. We don't only focus on things that can be improved in terms of errors, but things that can be built on that students are already have a strong foundation in. So if you notice, again, if you notice your students saying any of these kind of statements, you can just remind them, just go in to meet with the UWC and they will help you. So that's what I had for you today. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who put in the hard work to make this webinar, and thank you for all the parents and family that took some time to come here today.
One of the questions that we got that I think is good for all of us to hear is there was a question regarding whether or not these services are free. Can anybody want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm already here, so I'll kind of speak to it. What I think is in the back of a lot of people's mind when they ask that question is, do I need to pay when I go to have the service? The answer to that is no. Whether it's free or not, it's part of your student fees. So parents, you've paid the student fees, or maybe the student has paid them, but probably you, right? So part of your student fees, our services are covered under that. I believe the Learning Center is the same, but Pat, please make sure that I'm not overstating here, overstepping my bounds.
Yes, Margie answered it perfectly in the Q&A. Is all the services from peer tutoring to SI and peer learning specialists are all free for students beyond, like you said, the student services fee. So there is no cap, no limit on how many times your student can come and utilize our services through the semester. We've seen students come twice, and we've seen students who've come 46 times, all positive experiences for them, we hope. And so, yeah, there's no cap or no additional fee.
Well, we want to once again thank all of you for being here, for our presenters and our panelists today. We thank you so much for taking time out of your day to help our families understand the resources that are available to us here at Texas Tech. I talked about earlier about the webinars, the Red Raider Family Webinar Series, which this is part of. Coming up next, we've got Preparing Your Red Raider for Living Off Campus, Preparing Your Red Raider for On-Campus Living, and we'll wrap up this month with Student Disability Services. We'd also like to hear from you about your experience today. You can contact Parent and Family Relations at parent@ttu.edu. Many of you are part of the Red Raider Family Network. Please continue to look for opportunities to register for that. This recording will be sent to you at the email address that you registered for the webinar for, along with this slide deck. So again, we thank everyone for being here today. There are contact information. We invite you to join us next week. And with that, we will end our webinar for today. So you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time.